Before we begin this terrifying tale set deep in the heart of Texas, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below if you dare to make it to the end. We drop spine-chilling stories every week. Hit the bell icon, or the next story might hit you first. The sun was setting blood-red over Hollow Creek when Sarah Langley stepped out of her truck, boots crunching against the gravel of the forgotten family farm. The house looked smaller now, sun-bleached and collapsing inward, like it had been holding its breath for years. Wind whistled through broken windows. She hadn't been back in decades, since the night her grandfather disappeared. The will had been clear. Return to Hollow Creek, it's yours now. No explanation, no apology, just a property deed and a faded photograph of the old harvest shed in the back field. Something about that photo unsettled her. There were shadows in the image that didn't match the light, and a face in the corner she couldn't recognize. The town itself had dried up. Just a gas station, one diner, and a church with a sagging steeple. Locals stared when she arrived. One old man crossed himself. Another whispered, "She's the last Langley." Whatever that meant, she didn't ask. She was here to clean up and sell fast. But the land it wasn't ready to let go. That first night, the house groaned as though waking up. Sarah lit candles in the living room. Electricity hadn't worked in years. She explored slowly, running her fingers across dusty picture frames. Her family stared back, stern, sunburned faces, farmers, survivors, but none smiled. They looked haunted. In the attic, she found her grandfather's journal. The pages were water-damaged, but one passage stood out, underlined in red. "We harvest more than corn here. The land remembers. The land takes back." She laughed nervously, brushing it off as old man's rambling. But outside, the wind shifted and something whispered her name. Sleep didn't come easy. Sarah tossed under moth-bitten sheets, her skin crawling with unease. Around 2 a.m., a distant sound echoed from the fields. Rustling, not wind, not animals, a rhythm, like dragging feet over dry soil. She pulled back the curtain and stared into the blackness. Something was moving by the old harvest shed. The structure leaned like a drunk, its roof half gone and vines choking the beams. But something stood beside it, tall, still, watching. Sarah blinked. It vanished. She laughed again, uneasily. Jet lag, stress, hallucinations. But when she turned from the window, the bedroom mirror reflected something standing behind her. She spun around, heart hammering. No one there. The air was cold, bitter, and wrong. Sarah slammed the mirror shut with a towel. "Get it together," she whispered. But the house didn't agree. Floorboards creaked without weight. Distant whispers curled down the hallway. In the attic, the journal flipped open on its own. By morning, she looked hollow-eyed and pale. The diner waitress, a leathery woman named May, poured her coffee and stared. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked. Sarah froze. "Saw what?" May wiped her hands on her apron. "The harvest man. Once you do it, don't stop until it gets what it came for." May leaned in, voice dropping. "Your granddaddy tried to stop the harvest, said he'd break the curse, but the land's blood runs deep, sweetheart. And it always wants more." Sarah left early, heart pounding. Back at the house, the journal had more to say. "Don't go to the cornfield after dark. Don't answer when it knocks." Sarah tried to rationalize it all. Sleep deprivation, superstition, her mind playing tricks. But the marks on the floor weren't imagination. Deep, drag-like grooves began appearing each night from the back door toward her bedroom, and each morning they were closer, as if something was crawling in. On the third night, she set up her phone camera facing the hallway. She watched the footage the next morning, trembling. At 3:13 a.m., the hallway went pitch black, blacker than blackout, and from the shadows, something slithered. Long limbs, no face. It stopped at her door. The screen glitched. Then, nothing. She rushed to the sheriff, but he only scoffed. "Langley land's cursed," he muttered. "No one dares go near it since '82. Your family opened something they shouldn't have." Sarah begged for more, but he walked away, muttering, "You can't harvest souls and expect to plant peace." Back at the farm, storm clouds thickened. Rain pounded the roof like fists. The old harvest shed beckoned in every dream, calling her name. She finally gave in, grabbing a flashlight and heading out, boots sinking into mud. The door creaked open without touch. Inside, bones hung from twine like ornaments. Animal? Human? She couldn't tell. Symbols were scrawled in dried blood on the walls. A crude altar of teeth sat at the center, and on the floor, carved into the wood, was her name. Fresh, still bleeding. A voice whispered behind her ear, "You came back. The land remembers." She screamed and ran. The door slammed behind her. Wind howled through the fields, carrying low, guttural chanting. Corn stalks bent unnaturally, parting to form a narrow path. Against her better judgment, she followed. It led to an unmarked grave. A child's doll was stuck in the soil. Her name was on its chest. That night, sleep became impossible. Every shadow moved. Every silence felt like it was listening. The journal now bled ink. New pages appeared on their own. The harvest comes in threes, one for the past, one for the land, one for the bloodline. Sarah realized she was the last of the bloodline. She packed to leave at dawn, but her truck wouldn't start. The engine had been shredded from the inside, as if something with claws had ripped through it. The sky had turned a sickly orange. The townsfolk watched from afar, but offered no help. May stood on her porch, mouthing, "It's too late now." The cornfields trembled that night. From her window, Sarah saw shapes moving among the stalks, dozens of them, hollow-eyed, twitching, wearing old farmers' clothes. Her grandfather was among them, face decayed, lips moving silently. A harvest not of crops, but of lost souls. She locked herself in the cellar, heart pounding. The door above creaked open slowly. A tall, faceless figure descended, its limbs unnaturally long, fingers scraping the walls. The harvest man had come. And the land, the cursed, blood-fed land, opened wide to take what was owed. Sarah backed into the farthest corner of the cellar, clutching a rusted pipe like a sword. The harvest man didn't hurry. It moved with the patience of something eternal, knowing the land would not let its sacrifice escape. The walls pulsed around her, as if the house itself was breathing. She swung the pipe, but it passed through the figure like smoke. It didn't flinch. Instead, it whispered, without a mouth, without sound, "You were born for this." Then it vanished, leaving only a smear of ash and a small, dried cornstalk where it had stood. The cellar door slammed shut again. Hours passed. Sarah didn't sleep. At dawn, she emerged and found the journal open to the final page. Her grandfather's handwriting read, "To stop the harvest, one must become the root." Beneath that, a map. A place buried deep in the woods, long forgotten. Her last chance. She followed the path, the wind carrying moans through the trees. Branches reached for her like skeletal hands. At the map's center, she found an ancient oak, its bark scarred with symbols. A stone altar sat at its base, and behind it, the ground was disturbed, freshly dug. She knelt, heart racing. Beneath the dirt was a box. Inside, a bundle of hair, an old coin, and a severed pinky finger wrapped in cloth. Her pinky, from when she'd sliced it as a child on this very land. Her blood was already part of the pact. She had been chosen long ago. The ground trembled. The sky turned black. Crows screamed overhead, spiraling in chaotic circles. The altar cracked open. Roots surged out like snakes, wrapping around her legs, dragging her toward the pit. Her scream was swallowed by the wind as the land demanded its debt. But just before she vanished, Sarah remembered the journal's warning. Become the root. She forced herself to calm, to surrender, not to fight. The moment she stopped resisting, the roots paused. The wind stilled. The land listened. She whispered words she didn't understand, words written in the margins of the journal. The roots froze, then recoiled. The altar groaned and split open fully, revealing the buried heart of the curse, a blackened skull with hollow eyes, burning faintly red. She reached in, touching it. Visions flooded her mind, centuries of sacrifice, of fear, of innocent blood spilled to feed the soil. Her family had started it, but she could end it with one act. Sarah lifted the skull high and crushed it on the altar stone. The land screamed. A guttural, inhuman wail rose from every tree, every stalk of corn, every bone buried deep. The sky cracked with lightning. Then, silence. The earth went still. The altar crumbled into dust. Sarah collapsed, trembling, unsure if she had won or merely awakened something deeper. Sarah awoke at the edge of the altar's remains. The forest looked unchanged, but something in the air felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Birds chirped, tentative and uncertain. She stood, her limbs aching, her thoughts foggy. But she was alive, and alone. The harvest man was gone. Or so she hoped. Returning to the farmhouse, she found it empty. The walls no longer bled. The mirrors showed only her reflection. Yet the place felt hollow, like it had given up something vital. Her grandfather's journal lay where she'd left it. The final page now read only, "Debt paid. For now." She left Hollow Creek that evening, not daring to stay another night. But as she drove, the trees leaned toward the road, their branches forming shapes, faces, watching, waiting. The land remembered. The land forgave nothing. The curse was broken, but the soil still whispered secrets. Back in the city, she tried to resume her life, but nothing felt the same. In crowds, she sensed unseen eyes. In dreams, she heard the chanting of roots. When it rained, the drops on her window spelled her name. Sarah couldn't tell if she'd escaped or been marked. She sought experts, occultists, historians. All recoiled at the name Hollow Creek. One man, pale and shaking, told her, "Some land cannot be healed, only silenced." And when she asked about the harvest man, he whispered, "He waits for when the roots run dry again." One night, she returned home to find her living room filled with dirt. Cornstalks sprouted from her floorboards. A single blood-stained scythe lay on her couch. No doors or windows were broken. Nothing on the cameras. Just a note. The root still grows. Sarah burned the house down the next day. She ran, changed her name, moved states. But it followed. In every new place she found the signs, rotted harvests, shadowy figures, dreams of bone-deep soil. She realized then, the curse hadn't ended. It had simply chosen her as the new vessel. She returned to Hollow Creek one last time, alone. She carried the journal, the coin, and her own blood. At the altar's ashes, she dug again, not to end the curse, but to bury herself within it. She would become the root. She would keep it contained, at least for a while. As the dirt closed over her, the wind stilled. The trees bowed low. Hollow Creek accepted its offering. The harvest would sleep. But legends, like seeds, only wait for new soil, new rain. A scream was heard in the wind that night, but no one came. No one ever did. Today, Hollow Creek is overgrown. No one remembers the farmhouse. The land has been reclaimed by time. But in October, when the wind is high and the corn grows black, you might hear footsteps beneath your feet. Don't look down. Don't speak. And whatever you do, don't plant anything.